Let's remember how we got Donald Trump, because this is interesting because they're doing it again. So how did Hillary Clinton's campaign deliberately elevated Donald Trump with its Pied Piper strategy? Now, we told you about this when it actually happened. Most other people aren't going to tell you about this. So there's this memo. This guy, WikiLeaks, revealed this. This is a memo. And what does that memo say? Here's the important part. It was their strategy inside the Clinton campaign. The Clinton campaign decided to elevate Donald Trump so they could run against Donald Trump because they thought they could beat Donald Trump. Turns out they couldn't beat anybody. In this scenario, we don't want to marginalize the more extreme candidates, but make them more So they don't want to marginalize Donald Trump. They wanted to make them a Pied Piper candidate who actually represents the mainstream of the Republican Party. The Clinton campaign wrote. As examples of these Pied Piper candidates, the memo named Donald Trump as well as Senator Ted Cruz and Ben Carson. It said, we need to be elevating the Pied Piper candidates so that they are the leaders of the pack and tell the press to take them seriously. So Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democrats were telling the press to focus on Donald Trump and take him seriously as an attempt to elevate him so that he could become the nominee so that they could run against him. And of course, that's how we got Donald Trump, because they're such incompetent, corrupt corporatists that nobody would vote for her. She's the most repulsive candidate in the history of our country. And they tried to jam them down your throat. Here's another one. So now I want to show you this. Democrats have not stopped doing that. They're playing you like a chump. Democrats condemn MAGA Republicans while boosting their campaigns. What does this mean? Here's from MSNBC. Watch this.
In Colorado, where the events of January 6th certainly loomed large in the Republican Senate primary for the right to take on Democratic Senator Michael Bennet this November. What you see here is that Joe O'Dea has won. NBC News is projecting has won the Republican nomination. What was interesting in this race, the contrast between O'Dea and his challenger, State Representative Ron Hanks. Hanks actually attended Donald Trump's speech on January 6th. It was the subject of those hearings today. He was part of the march to the Capitol on January 6th. He said that the 2020 election was marred by fraud. Democrats actually spent a lot of money in this race trying to elevate Hanks, believing that his views on January 6th, his views on abortion as well, would make him unelectable in November.
So now the Democrats are finding the most radical, crazy right-winger who's the biggest threat to your rights, and they're giving him money.
Matthew, did you think of pretending to be MAGA to get on the ballot?
Yeah, why did you?
Given you money.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of. I've had repeatedly. It's interesting, dude. I'm a first-time candidate, and I've been on and off Twitter and everything else. But like, I see the same accusations come up over and over again. And the same type of "I gotcha" quips, or real clever thing. Like, how much do you get a cut of Trump's merchandise for doing this?
So people know who you are. This segment. This is Matthew Ho. He's running as a Green Party candidate in North Carolina, and the Democrats just tried to block his ballot entry, even though they have enough signatures and they're everything required of them. And so that's who Matthew Ho is, and that's why he's speaking right now. Go ahead, Matthew.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I grew up outside New York City. I've known Trump my whole life. I disliked that guy long before most other people have, and this idea that we have to be one or the other, A or B, blue or red, this identity type politics, this is what is crushing our country.
Yes.
This is why it's so easy for our system to be captured by money, because as we were saying before, Jimmy, right, the big donors only have to capture A and B. They don't have to capture C, D, E, and F.
Right.
Right. And this prevents people from voting on issues. This prevents people from voting on their conscience. This prevents people from voting on their values. You're shamed into thinking that you're going to be the reason why abortion is not legal anymore because of how you cast your. The whole thing is just so preposterous. Particularly seeing you had 50 years to protect abortion and you just didn't do anything to do it all. And as you were rattling off, you did a lot of things that didn't help. I've got a very dirty joke from the Marine Corps, I can tell, but I don't think that's the right thing to do right now. Maybe off camera, I'll tell you.
Okay.
But I mean, like, in the sense though of like this, the problem with the two-party system is not just it's corrupt, not just it's worsening things, but it perpetuates a deadly status quo. And the people that I've come across as I've been running who say, well, we can worry about healthcare later, we can worry about housing later, because they generally have healthcare.
Yes.
Yeah.
They generally aren't dealing with their rent going up 20-25% as people here in North Carolina are. You know what I mean? So there's a insincerity to that argument that exposes the fact that these people really don't have that connection to the issues via themselves or their loved ones that I can tell you all the folks on my campaign do. Everyone on my campaign, they're doing this because of people they love and the way they see those people being brutalized by our political system.
So there's more to this video in Steve Kornacki. Let's listen, because the Democrats aren't just doing it one place. They're doing it all over the place. Watch this.
Actually, to elevate Hanks, that effort you see fell short. Joe O'Dea has said that he accepts as legitimate the 2020 election. He also calls himself pro-choice, says he would vote to codify Roe versus Wade federally if he had the opportunity to do so. And so, as I say, O'Dea wins the primary, sets up a general election battle between O'Dea and Democrat Michael Bennet. Colorado, a state that's been trending towards the Democrats very much over the last decade or two. Biden won this state by about 13.5 points in 2020. The question is O'Dea moderate enough that in the climate of 2022, he can make this a close and competitive Senate race? That's one question we're going to find out in the months ahead. One other story of note, I think, to tell you here, we talk about Democrats getting involved in some of these Republican primaries. In Illinois, Democrats spent upwards of $30 million trying to assure that this, exactly what you're seeing here, would happen. Darren Bailey, a very conservative state senator from downstate Illinois, has romped to the Republican nomination for governor over a much more moderate candidate, Richard Irvin, the mayor of Aurora, Illinois. Irvin wouldn't even say whether he had voted for Donald Trump. Bailey was endorsed by Donald Trump. Democrats spent big trying to get Bailey boosted here, believing again that he'd be a very beatable candidate. Bailey gets the nomination. It sets up for him a general election showdown with the incumbent governor, J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker won this seat in 2018. He got 55% of the vote back then. This is a gamble Democrats are taking in Illinois. They think they've identified a very beatable candidate. They spent very heavily. Now we'll see if their bet pays off as they get the Republican opponent they were hoping for the governorship.
So they spent, the Democrats, instead of spending $30 million on their own candidate, instead of spending $30 million to help people, they spent $30 million to prop up a right-wing mental case who's against women's right to choose and everything that Democrats care about. There was another politician that was running that was more moderate, that was more agreeable to the Democrats' positions. They didn't want that guy. They don't want you to have two good choices. They don't want you to have two choices that show that they're the same, because they are. They need to show you that this guy's a crazy maniac. So this is what Malcolm X talked about, that they have to show you a fox so you run towards the wolf, right? So that's exactly what this is. So they go, look at that fox. Look at the Republicans, how crazy they are. Now you have to come vote for us, but they're a wolf in sheep's clothing. So go ahead, Kurt.
So this video, a friend of mine who I won't say their name because they're a famous person, I don't want them to be attacked by Andy Kindler. So this person sent me this video, that I sent Jimmy.
It's a very famous person.
Yeah, this is what they text me, and I bet this counts for a lot of famous people that
famous and smart. People would consider this person very smart. So go ahead.
I had no idea this happens. The Democratic Party actually donated millions to extremist Republicans to defeat centrist Republicans that believe in the same things as them. These guys aren't even criticizing this on MSNBC. They're just stating it as a fact of strategy. It's just interesting to them.
Yes.
My friend was blown away watching this. They couldn't believe what they were looking at.
Yeah,
and had no idea it was like that. And a bunch of people have no idea that it's like that.
They have no idea that that's how we got Donald Trump. They don't know that's why we got Donald Trump, that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats rigged it so they could run against Donald Trump. But of course, they couldn't beat him because they're so corrupt. And people were done voting for corporate Democrats. And they got the worst candidate in the history of our country, Hillary Clinton, to run as a Democrat. So, yes. And it's not only happening there. So, yes, so people don't know. So that's why people, when I criticize Democrats, people call me a right winger or a Republican because they don't know what's going on, that I'm actually criticizing them from the left. I criticize Democrats not because I sympathize or favor Republicans. I criticize Democrats because they are Republicans. That's why. And that's why they don't want to run against a centrist Republican, because they fucking are that. They are Republicans.
The fact that people don't know this shows us that even Democrats really don't watch MSNBC.
That's right. Well, do you know more Democrats watch Tucker Carlson than watch Rachel Maddow? More Democrats in the demo watch Tucker Carlson than watch Rachel Maddow. What does that tell you? Also, they're still doing it. Look in Pennsylvania. Take Pennsylvania, where Democratic gubernatorial candidate and state attorney general Josh Shapiro spent $1.7 million on TV ads boosting the conservative credentials of gubernatorial candidate and state senator Douglas Mastriano, a far-right candidate who bussed rally goers to the Capitol on January 6th and who was subpoenaed by the House Select Committee investigating the events of that day. Democrats are giving that guy almost $2 million. This guy who bussed rally goers to the Capitol on January 6th. Do you think they care about you? Do you think they care about this country? Or do they only care about a power grab? That's exactly what the Democrats are, because they are Republicans. And so they have to make up phony issues for you to vote for them on.
The balls of this, on top of it, to blame you if you don't vote for them.
Right.
And then actually give money to someone you're telling me is Hitler.
Yes.
So that you look good. I mean, you don't think that's a little risky of a strategy?
By the way, AOC takes the money you give her and she gives it to right-wing Democrats, just so you know. Here's one more. That single ad buy, according to amounted, that's $1.7 million. That amounted to more money than Mastriano's campaign spent during the entire primary. The Democrats are spending more money than the actual right-wing Republican candidates are on their own campaign. The Democrats are giving them more money. Mastriano, who was endorsed by former President Donald Trump, won the key battleground states Republican gubernatorial primary. So it worked. The Democrats got a crazy right-winger to run against them, and now they have to cross their fingers and hope that guy doesn't win. And this isn't new. This is from 2018. Michael Sonato wrote this in 2018. Instead of manipulating Republican, they've been doing this ever since Claire McCaskill in 2012. They've been doing this, spending money to prop up super right-wing creepy guys so they can run against a super right-wing creepy guy instead of a regular Republican, which is what Democrats are. So instead of manipulating Republican primaries, which are out of Democrats' control, Democrats should be focusing their resources on their own candidates and campaigns. Democrats need to campaign on the strength of their candidates rather than the weakness of their opponents. The Pied Piper strategy is dangerous. When it fails, far-right extremist candidates attain positions of power. It also breeds attack ads and dirty politics, as opposed to focusing on issues that actually resonate with voters. In the wake of the 2016 election, the Democratic Party is looking for a Band-Aid approach to its larger problems, opting to create unrest in the opposing party over reconciling its own internal battles. As it seeks to avoid unifying with progressives, the Democratic Party risks greater losses at the hands of far-right Republicans. That's so because the Democrats don't want to team up with people who are actually left, who actually stand for what the Democrats say they stand for, which is a living wage, ending the wars, health care, free college, stuff like that. Instead of actually embracing the people who agree with that, they're embracing the far right-wing nuts, funding them so they can run against them because they know they're not going to do anything for you, and you have no reason to vote for them instead of voting out of fear. And we have people like Matthew Ho running as a Green Party candidate in North Carolina, and they're so afraid of putting health care on the ballot. They're so afraid of putting a living wage or ending the wars on the ballot that they just blocked him from being on the ballot. Really? I thought third parties were stupid and they don't have any power. Why don't you let them have a chance at the free market of ideas? See if people like their ideas. No, they can't do that. That's why the Democrats have to fund ultra right-wing maniacs and keep actual left-wingers off the ballot, because they're so corrupt, they know you're not going to vote for them for any other reason. Matthew, you'd like to make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first of all, I should say every time I see a clip like that, I remind myself that the best decision I've made in the last 8 years was getting rid of cable TV.
Ha!
You know, I mean, right? But the idea that it's one big club and you're not in it, you know, that George Carlin said so well so many years ago. And the way that the things that are important to both the Democrats and Republicans, the money, their donors, the Wall Street, the wars, et cetera, are what come through, and that they have a very real effect on that. So here in North Carolina, we're experiencing this crisis where corporations are coming in and buying entry-level homes, buying homes that working families should be buying, but now they're being priced out because corporations are coming in. The genesis of that explains what I'm talking about. So, Jimmy, I know you talk a lot about how Barack Obama let 12 million American families lose their homes while he bailed out the banks. Those banks then took that money. They turned around and they bought those foreclosed homes.
Yes.
And that began this process in 2011, 2012, 2013, where the banks, through their, through their various other companies, are purchasing these homes. And now it's at the point where we're seeing 1 in 4, 1 in 5 homes being bought by corporations, and that is causing housing prices to, you can't buy a house near me in North Carolina for less than $300,000. And a rent in my part of North Carolina is getting close to $1,600 a month. If we had an annualized living wage like we should do, and which we advocate for, based on local housing costs, you would need to be making at least $22 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And meanwhile, our minimum wage here is $7.25. And of course, that's something that, the Democrats and the Republicans agree upon. Money to Wall Street, force all the money to come out of the working class to them. And yeah, this is why we're kept off.
Here's what Nancy Pelosi says about the Republican Party. Now, as you listen to this, keep in mind, at this very moment, her PACs are funding the most radical right-wing crazy people in the world. She's literally funding them. As she says this, she's funding them.
I would say to my Republican friends, and I do have some, take back your party. The Republican Party, the grand old party, is made tremendous.
Take back your party, as we give $30 million to the guy running against your party, the guy trying to make sure you can't take back your party. We're going to fund the crazy people inside your party that make it impossible for you to take back your party, because that's the only way we can win an election. So she's just 100% gaslighting, lying, because she's 100% criminal liar. She's a $100 millionaire, and she got $100 million while she was in Congress. And as Harry Truman said, there's only one kind of people that become rich in government, and those are criminals. Nancy Pelosi is a criminal who should be in prison and doesn't give a shit about you, and that's why she says things. She's pissing in your face, and she's telling you it's raining right now. Here we go.
Contributions to our country, founded by Lincoln, but over the years, tremendous contribution to our country. Don't let your party be hijacked by a cult, essentially, that is.
No, let it be hijacked by, Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Facebook, Instagram. Let it be taken over by them. Don't let it become a cult of actual voters.
She goes, I have 2 things to tell you. Take back your party and get your kid out of my way while I'm taking a picture. Hey, get this kid out of here.
Get this kid out of here. Here, she's got more to say.
What is happening, and it isn't good for the country. We, of course, want the Democrats to be preeminent, but that's secondary to the fact that we need to have strong representation across the board in our country.
So that's called bullshit. That's called pissing in your face and telling you it's raining. And that's what Nancy Pelosi is. She's a lying, corrupt, evil, rapacious oligarch who doesn't give a shit about you. And if you think she does, you're the chump. You're the chump. So let's end this, give the last word to the North Carolina Green Party candidate who is being screwed over by the Democrats there right now. Matthew Ho, what would you like to say to end this segment? And by the way, people can go, now he's got the right stance on mandates, so I like this guy now a lot. So I
could have gone the other way.
I was really,
I know.
I was nervous.
I would have been treated like our lawyer was treated by the partisan, chairman yesterday.
Well, the Black Caucus inside the Green Party got it right on mandates, but it's people like Howie Hawkins, who I think is compromised 100%. Howie Hawkins is a Russiagator. Howie Hawkins, if he's not getting a check by the CIA or the FBI, he should be, because he's doing their bidding inside the party. I know I shouldn't put you on the spot by saying that, but that's what's happening. And the white people running the Green Party are fucking mental. Howie Hawkins and the people around him, they're wrong about everything, and they're corrupt. They're in bed with the people that they claim to be fighting against, and they're not. They're not fighting against anybody. They're the status quo now, guys like Howie Hawkins. So that's what's wrong with the Green Party. But the Black Caucus inside the Green Party got it right. What's your position on that?
On mandates, or on the Black Caucus, or on crazy people running political parties, or what was the...
Take your pick.
I will say this. I'll say this. My view of political parties are that when they become a purpose in and of itself, that's when they lose any value. And that on the left, we need to build a movement, and there are people who have been doing this for decades, so I don't want to step on any toes, but where the political party is just an appendage. It's just one arm of the body, and it does nothing more than provide the political efforts for, in my opinion, a movement of working families. And then you need other efforts. You need mutual aid, you need education, you need labor organizing, you need communication and media, but it's all part of a body. And that's where I come down on this issue of what we should be trying to build on the left, is this movement that has a political party as its operating arm, in order to accomplish it. Because otherwise, party becomes a party for itself. Who's the constituency then?
Right.
And as well as I do, you get in these circles where the idea that the ideology is what guides these people, but they've got no connection to real folks. Kind of like I was saying before, these people who tell you that we shouldn't be voting on issues like healthcare and housing are people who have healthcare and don't have any fears about their housing.
Yes.
But I really appreciate your time, Jimmy, Kurt, Steph. Thank you guys so much. My website is MatthewHo4Senate.org. We've got this big legal fight against the biggest Democratic Party law firm and the state of North Carolina coming up. So if people can contribute and help us, that will allow us to do the kinds of things that we are talking about.
All right, Matthew Ho, running for Senate in North Carolina, Green Party. Thank you for your time. Thanks for coming on, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
July 3rd, we're doing a live show in Los Angeles, and then we're going to Chicago, Sacramento, San Diego, Bakersfield. See you there. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com for a link for all our tickets.